So, with the astronomical rate at which technology is evolving, it's obvious that society will look much different in the future than it is now. And one of the areas where we expect to have a major change will be in the area of jobs. The kind of jobs people will do. Actually, there have been a good number of futuristic writers who've postulated that a vast majority of the jobs that are going to be done in the future look nothing like the jobs we are already used to right now. And so we are going to expect changes in a lot of areas. But for today, I want to touch on 3 unbelievable jobs that will exist in the very near future. 3 jobs that will be necessitated by the emotional aspects of human beings. And here we go. First, professional friends or companions. Now, this is not quite a new idea to humans because for the best I know, humans have been paying for companionship for a very, very long time. Except that for the most part, it's always mainly been adults paying other adults for companionships with an agenda behind. You know what I'm talking about, of course. But I'm talking about a situation, a time when people will be paying for quite platonic friendships and companionships, because one of the downsides of technology is that humans are becoming a lot more mechanized, all right? Being left for the most part with gadgets to work with and not quite people to connect with. So we got a common phenomenon right now, which is what I call the irony of the social media age. And that we live at a point in time where it's so easy for people to make friends online and act happy on social media, all while loneliness just creeps underneath their feet in their personal lives. And so loneliness has become quite an issue, quite a disease in our times, especially in the Western democracies. But I'd say, well, it's going to catch up with the rest of the world eventually. And so one of the ways we're going to try to combat this will be through paid companionships and paid friends, or you may be right to say professional friends or professional companions, all right, who will be people you'd basically pay to enjoy their company and their time, all in exchange for whatever amount of money you're going to accept to pay, all right? So unlike what has happened for centuries, this is going to be completely platonic, all right? People are going to pay for people to just be friends and basically just do things that friends do. Play together, eat lunch together, take a walk at the park, go to the movies and all that. All platonic. These will be professional friends and professional companions. And eventually, you will have laws that will guide this kind of relationships. So you're acting well within the confines of ethics, and both parties are protected by the law. Now, second on the list will be personal entertainers. And here I'm talking storytellers, dancers, singers, comedians, clowns, mascots, and all these people who will be hired to entertain people at an individual basis. Just like we now got personal trainers and personal chefs and all that, you will have personal entertainers who will be invited to private spaces to entertain individuals or households in exchange for money. So it's basically the same concept of entertainers and entertainment that humans have known for a very, very long time, except that in this case, the entertainers will be tailored not for the public, but for individual needs. So you could hire the service of, let's say, a comedian, and you would have a contract, and you could reach out to them at any point in time, definitely within the confines of your contract or your agreement, and they will be there to entertain you. Why? Because at some point in time, people need connection. People need a human connection to function better, which is totally different from whatever connection you get from a screen. And that will be it for personal entertainment. Now, the last on this list will be personal motivators. So these will be people very much like the current day motivational speakers we know, all right? Except that, just like in the last case, they're gonna be tailored for individual needs. And you've got to understand that the idea of personal motivators is not new. It's just simply going to make a comeback, because these were very common in ancient Europe and Africa. Except that these people were of very, very high value and weren't available to the mass public. So available to the kings and the chiefs. If you study the accounts of the kings of Europe and Africa in the past, you would realize that the kings in these places always had someone at their beck and call from dawn to dusk who will be there just to motivate them and remind them of their achievements and remind them of how powerful they are and remind them of how smart they were, of how handsome they were, and kind of hype men in a sense. And they will be all over the kings, reminding them of how heroic they truly were. They will remind them of their past glories. Remember, you killed this adversary with one hit, with one sword. And they will remind them of their heroism and make them know that they are good enough for whatever lies ahead. All right? Now, we're going to be having the same thing in the future, except that these people will be talking to the masses. So we'll be having such people in the future and in the very near future available to the common man. What used to be available just for the kings of the past will now be common to the common man, because people will need a lot of motivation. We're getting to an age where people for the most part will lose their drive, especially as we make the great transition of having to incorporate machines into our workplaces, working with machines and all that. Because for the most part, people have always attached the meaning of their lives to whatever kind of work they do, all right? And so going through the great transition that we're gonna be facing in industries in the near future, people will be needing a lot of motivation. And so people will be needing these people, motivators, tailored for their specific needs to keep them going. Yeah. Thank you.